Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome to this overview of March is Frontier Unlocked, where they talked about Planet Coaster 2 updates for April and May, Update 4 and Update 5. So the big feature for Update number 4 coming on the 22nd of April, although that might be a slightly tentative date because they only mentioned it that they're aiming for it and didn't sort of announce it as the actual date, so take that one with a slight pinch of salt. But the big thing coming is restaurants. They basically brought them across from Planet Zoo, but they have changed them quite a bit, and they are personally, I think, much better than the Planet Zoo ones, although they were great. The footprint of the actual restaurant piece is much smaller. It's basically a single grid now. Looks really like a little sort of QSR spot, really, and you can place that down and attach chairs and booths to it. So they brought across the generic-looking chair and booth, the table and chair and booth, from Planet Zoo. But also they have made it so that you can use the majority of the themed ones in the game as well, which is great. To be honest with you, the generic ones are quite nice and plain, and as long as they're colourable, I actually think you might use those a little more for the majority of restaurants, because you want the tables to be clean and wipeable, and these look very sort of wiped down, as opposed to a lot of the themed ones, which are more suitable for like outside use, I think more of like a picnic bench kind of thing. But anyway, you have the option to use all of them there, and yeah, you can place them down, you can choose the items that are sold in them, and guests will go up and grab food and go and sit down, and the guests will actually go and sit down as well. In Planet Zoo they just kind of teleported to the tables. Now they will actually pathfind and find a seat and sit themselves down, and the tables and chairs are strictly only usable for the people in that restaurant, so they won't just be able to wander in and sit down and use something they grab from a vending machine outside or what have you. It is going to be its own contained space using the pathing system. I think it's a really nice addition, and I think these are going to be really great fun to build. And it just anything that just gets the guests moving around and interacting with things in the parks outside of rides is a great addition for me personally. So I'm very excited to get playing with these. I've actually started building a restaurant in Meanderville ready for this feature. I knew it was coming, so I've started building one ready for this feature. You can head over to patreon.com/geekism and take a look at that early, or you could just hold on for episode 2 of Meanderville, which will hopefully come later in April. So that's the big thing, is restaurants. They've also added 2 more dethemed coasters, one of them being the B&M flying coaster. They've taken the manta ray thing off it, and also the wild mouse, the spinning mouse. They've taken the mouse off it, so it's just wild or spinning now. Both great additions. Love seeing these come. I mean, I'm a big fan of these. I'll probably use them over the themed ones. I might not even add my own theming to them. A lot of these coasters, they're pretty plain, really. It takes a lot to see a coaster with a lot of detail on them, especially like the Manic Mouse one there. That's a real sort of stock fairground type ride, so that plainer detailing is perfect for me personally. And also we see the return of the Scissor, I think they call it. It's a scrambler, basically, a real classic flat ride. This is the larger model that came with the original base game Planet Coaster. There was a smaller version that came with one of the DLCs, I forget which now, which I would have preferred personally, but again, it's a free ride. It's just nice to see it added to the game, and it is a quite nice plain one. It does kind of have that huge pad, but at this point I think that's just something we have to deal with Planet Coaster flat rides. They've added an option to toggle the automatic coaster supports on paths. A lot of coaster supports will actually meet a path in real life. They sometimes have fences around them, sometimes they just are so tall and greased up metal that nobody's only going to climb them or anything, so it's nice to have that option. I think that most people who care enough about this for it to be a feature are probably doing custom supports anyway, but again, any form of ability to customize stuff, it's great. That toggle is ignorable by 99% of people, but that 1% of people who want it now have it, and that's a good thing. Talking of new toggles, the water in pools has had a bit of an upgrade. You can now change the color of the water using the full color palette. You can change the water to any color you like. You can also change the sort of the density of the water, I think they called it, or the opacity of it, make it less clear, and the less clear it gets, the more that color sort of shows itself off. The lighting around the edge doesn't look like it's toggleable, so the lights don't actually go away, but you can scale how bright they actually are and how much light they actually emit. And also, one thing they weren't able to show off, but they are adding, is the ability to change the color of the tile of the pool, or the finish of the pool, which I think is a really great addition, because at the moment there's only sort of 3 or 4 types, but it'd be really great to be able to change those tiles to different colors for different areas of your park, or that one plain piece now you could maybe make it look more sandy or something like that. So all of these features I actually think are going to be really great for making natural looking pools, and that's something we've been playing around already. Estan has done some great stuff with those already, where you put the sort of natural water over the top of the pools. I think you can get rid of that now and just use these new features. And also, if you're the sort of person that does creative wacky builds, like fantastical builds, you're now going to have the option to do rivers of blood or pools of lava or poison and all that sort of stuff. And of course, with all the updates comes a pile of stability and performance enhancements. They don't really go much into detail about these, but the last few have had pages and pages of bug fixes and all other bits like that as well. So that's exciting. That's all coming in April. They're aiming for April 22nd, although, like I say, that date hasn't actually been fully confirmed yet, but sometime towards the end of April, I would expect that to drop. Alongside that, we had an update for the May update. No date at all for this one yet, other than the month of May. They've now showed off that the main feature is going to be the return of security guards, and with it, things for them to do. So vandalism and pickpockets returning from Planet Coaster 1. Security guards will be coming back to deal with them. You're going to be able to place cameras. I imagine a very similar system to PC 1. I would love to see the system updated a little bit, but I don't know how. Personally, I just maybe am not a fan of security in games like this, to be honest with you. For those people who've been watching my 2 Point Museum playthrough, you know how frustrated I and a lot of the community have been with the thieving and security feature in that game as well. I just feel like it's very often busy work, and it isn't like a fun mechanic in games, but it is a new mechanic, or a returning mechanic at least, and it is a fairly sort of common one for these types of games, and the sort of thing that if you really are trying to sort of run a theme park, it is the sort of thing you want to care about, I guess. A very requested feature from perhaps more casual players. Personally, the most thing I'm excited about is having cameras return, and therefore being able to do nice POV pictures with them. You're always able to place cameras down, go into them to look around, and change the depth of field and what have you. That's probably the only thing you're going to be using these for. But again, a nice, good feature. Not all of this can be for me. There's a lot of different people playing this game and playing it very differently as well. With all of these, both April and May, they're adding career maps into sandbox mode. That's fine if you're interested in those. They've also said there's going to be more returning stock coasters with the May update, and here on the roadmap it says returning flat ride Trident. That might be a typo there. Trident in Planet Coaster 1 was the Vekoma Boomerang, the classic sort of pull back and go into a bat loop and a vertical loop. So I'm guessing it's that, and it just says returning. It should just say returning ride and not flat ride. But yeah, the Vekoma Boomerang is what the Trident is known as in Planet Coaster 1. I assume it's going to be that returning. Stability and performance enhancements as well. And the one thing that isn't mentioned here on the roadmap, but they did say in the live stream, is that they're working very hard on another theme return, much like we got the Western theme in March, and they said that they are laser focused and it's no longer sci-fi, it's becoming a reality. So that to me says that sci-fi is returning from Planet Coaster 1. If it isn't, that's a really weird way of saying it. Again, much like security guards, sci-fi wasn't on my radar as one of the more important themes to return. Personally, I would have took fantasy or pirate over it. It wasn't a theme that I particularly enjoyed in Planet Coaster 1, mostly because of the sort of sci-fi I enjoy is less of that sort of really clean, shiny metal Star Trek sci-fi. I preferred the grungy, gribbly sort of Star Wars sci-fi personally. Saying that, much like with the Western theme, I do feel like the sci-fi theme is going to be much more usable, hoping that they bring a lot more recolorability to the items and also the scalability to the items. I think it's going to make a lot more useful. Even if I never have any interest in building a sci-fi theme, I'll take the lights that work great as security lighting. I'll take the cables that just work in all sorts of different places. And I'm sure there's other stuff. The sci-fi theme, I think a lot of people in their heads, I especially do this, think of the sci-fi sci-fi theme from Planet Coaster 1 as giant robot dogs. But actually, there's probably a lot of very useful little bits that act as, sort of pin pads on doors and like I say, security lights and cables and good metal grating for walkways and what have you. So there's probably still going to be lots of useful stuff in there for my style of building, even if I'm not going to build giant robot dogs. And last but not least, they very briefly mentioned this, and I wanted to point it out because I was actually working on a video about this. I'm going to scrap that now because of this. But you may have noticed that the returning cowboy animatronics from the March update, there was only 2 or 3 of them, and they were all the ones that weren't in combat, the ones that weren't fighting with their guns, to the point where they'd even actually had their gun belts and ammo belts removed. And a lot of people were asking why this was. I correctly assumed that it was a PEGI issue or an ESRB issue, depending on where you are in the world, the rating for video games and what you're allowed to do, similar to R-rated movies and what have you. I assumed it was because the game has a lower rating and therefore they can't depict guns. Turns out they also assumed that, but they assumed incorrectly, and they are able to have those kind of guns because I guess there's no real violence happening with them. They're just kind of bang bang shooting, and so because of that, they are going to be returning in update number 4. So both the Dynamite the Dynamite scenery, and I think they said 4 animatronics where the cowboys are using guns or firing guns are going to be returning in update 4, again as part of that free update. So that's really great to see. Very happy to see that because they are, let's be honest, they're the ones that you're more likely going to be using in a dark ride. You're going to want those sort of action scenes, those fight scenes. It's going to make for really dynamic and fun scenes in your dark rides. And we can assume because of that, the SciFi set comes with the ray gun guys shooting back and forth as well. So there we go. Lots to come with Planet Coaster. I am actually playing the game quite a bit at the moment. I'm working on like bigger, less regular videos at the moment with Planet Coaster because we're getting some 2 Point Museum stuff out a few times a week. So that's sort of like your daily driver. I am working quite a bit on both Planquatica and Saving Storybook and Meanderville at the moment, and I'm just kind of chipping away at them as I get creative bursts. So you will still be seeing Planet Coaster 2 content on the channel. I'm just not trying to like churn it out just for the sake of it. I'm churning out other games instead. No, we're having lots of fun in 2 Point Museum, and there'll be other stuff coming to the channel soon as well. The main reason is it's a lot easier to make an hour-long video in 2 Point Museum than it is making an hour-long video in Planco, because an hour-long video in Planco is probably closer to 20 hours worth of playtime. So you will see the schedule slow down a little bit with them, but I'm hoping that they are sort of better videos less often, if that makes sense. And all of these updates are very welcome, and I'm looking forward to implementing all of them into the parks. As soon as the Western theme dropped, I went straight back into Meanderville and to start working on some of the more naturalistic themes of the park, using a lot of the great wood textures that the Western theme brings. There you go. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments which of these you are most excited about. For me personally, it's restaurants. I think they're going to really add another layer of building into the game. I just love anything that just gets the guests wandering around and interacting with stuff. That's what I want to see more of. Thanks very much for watching. Until the next one, be good.